few days ago, a licensed concealed carry holder.
I know where you're going, and I'm excited. I'm really excited.
All right. His name was Elijah Dickens in Indiana.
Okay.
An intruder, I believe, left the bathroom of a mall and opened fire.
Yep. And killed people.
He actually killed people?
Yeah. Yeah, I believe he did kill people. I know the shooter, let's just call him a mass shooter, because that's fair enough what he tried to do. The mass shooter, I know for certain he shot people, and I want to say he killed people. I haven't seen the after reports, but I know what happened soon thereafter. You had the other gentleman who pushed his girlfriend to the side, quickly pulled his firearm. And the craziest thing about the story, from what I've heard, is the distance that let's just call him the good guy, because that's what he is, I mean, truthfully, he's a hero. When we use the term hero, I think that term's used they throw it around so easily. Oh, you're a hero because you let someone cut in line. You're a hero because, whatever, you gave someone your pickles from your sandwich, That guy's a hero, absolute hero. So going back to what's extraordinary to me, the good guy, the hero, when he pulled out his pistol, I think he shot 10 times, and he hit the bad guy, the mass shooter, 8 times, 40 yards away.
Do you know what weapon it was?
All I know is a pistol.
Had to have been, right?
Yeah, I'm assuming it was at least an automatic or semi-automatic pistol. That's what I'm assuming, okay? But you have to understand, for you to hit something with a pistol beyond 25 yards is insanely difficult. It's difficult being at a range where you're standing there with all the time in the world, no stress, no girlfriend that you're having to push to the side. It's difficult to do it just at a range. So, good guy absolutely had practice. Like, there's no doubt about that. And what's crazy is people don't want to really talk about this. Let me give you my thought. We live in a country that produces a ton of firearms, right? Firearms is literally one of our bigger businesses in our country. When you look at some other countries, let's just France, England, do they produce firearms at the rate we do? Not even close, okay? I mean, I've heard it said for every 1 American, there's 5 guns in our country, right? So the amount of guns in our country is huge. We're never going to take those guns back. Never are we going to go door to door. That's really the big fear for the people who have guns, right? But I can tell you that's never going to happen, because if that did happen, we would have an all-out revolution, as we should, in all honesty. So we have this big, super high, crazy number of guns in our country, okay? So the idea of gun control, the cat's out of the bag. There's no more gun control. We have tons and tons of guns. So to me, when we're talking about this issue of mass shooters, the solution is never going to be, well, we're going to have less guns. That's not going to work, right? I mean, it's like I said, cat's out of the bag. So the solutions we have are, number one, mental health, because everybody would agree all these mass shooters have serious mental health issues. The thing that a lot of these mass shooters have together is, from a common sense standpoint, they're all kind of losers. I mean, you don't see Jeff Bezos becoming a mass shooter. These people who have either they really did lose at life, or in their mind they think that they've lost at life, and this is what they think they need to do. So mental health, we need to do a much better job with that. We need to do a much better job of that.
Completely agree. And I brought this up earlier before we started filming. Paddy Pimberly is a UFC fighter.
Okay.
And he's a villain too.
Okay.
He's great. He's polarizing. I think he's Irish, Conor McGregor style. I think he's a better promoter than...
Okay, so what's his fighter name? He has like a crazy, like, is it Bad Boy or...
Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact. But after he... First of all, he promised to do a Call of Duty maneuver on his opponent after he did it, after he beat him, which he promised he'd beat him, and he did that. You have to go look it up.
This is the dude that almost has like a bowl haircut.
He looks goofy.
Yeah. He does look goofy, but he's a good fighter, so you can't, whatever. He looks how he looks. It is what it is.
Yeah. Do you remember that movie Notting Hill?
Yeah.
With he came out, like, met the reporters, like, in a robe, and A Knight's Tale. The gambler from A Knight's Tale.
Right.
He looks just like that guy to me.
Or the the Amish bowler. What was the movie about bowling?
Kingpin. Yeah.
Looks like this haircut's like this bowl cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he plays this wonderful villain to promote the fights. And
right.
He does his due diligence once he chokes out his opponent. And then, but he jumps away immediately. The opponent wasn't hurt. It was a tap out. They give each other a huge hug. And when they give him the microphone, they say, what do you have to say about this win? He goes, well, I got to say that I lost a friend about 2 weeks ago, and 6 hours before a fight, a friend of mine killed himself. And there's a stigma that men can't talk about mental health. And man,
yeah.
I'll tell you what, it reached the power of what he did, and it showed the true character of the man.
See, this is why I want to bring back happy hour. This is why I want to bring back the time in the day where, let's just say men, I mean, I don't care men, women, but let's just say men get together and they go someplace and they hang out. I mean, wouldn't that be great? You get off work, you had a rough day. I don't care if you've even worked. I want to bring back happy hour. The society that we have so much online is not a good society. We were not built like this. We were not built for this, And I'm at the point now where my views are starting to get a little bit more controversial, because the people who are controversial, when I hear it, and the reason we hear it is because controversy is good payment. It's good advertising, right? On TikTok and whatever, these controversial guys, they raise to the top. But I'm at the point now where I'm listening to these controversial guys, and you would think that these are conspiracy theories, and I'm saying, man, I agree with that guy. Yeah, there is something going on with males in our country. It's not good. We need to be, I would love to wind the clock back to the 80s, where being middle class was perfectly okay. You're doing fine being middle class, and you were proud to be middle class. The greatest, when you look at the beer commercials from the 80s with Spud McKenzie, everybody looked like they were having fun. They weren't driving Lamborghinis. They weren't, let me take a selfie. They were having fun. They were with a bunch of people. It was a good time. It was happy hour. Let's bring it back. Bring happy hour back.
I'm with it.
If that guy, let's just play this out. I don't know anything personally about the shooter that rightfully got shot and killed, if he was killed, rightfully. The hero did his job. I don't know anything about the bad guy. But let's play this out. Let's say there was happy hours, there was get-togethers. And that guy, I'm assuming he didn't have a lot of friends. I'm assuming his life wasn't going the way he thought. I'm assuming he's comparing himself to all these people online, which is a horrible thing to do. You don't know anything about these other people. Let's just say he went to a happy hour and he met somebody else, some other guy that they could talk about, Call of Duty, whatever they wanted to talk about. At least they're having an in-person conversation. Look, you go on the street and you meet a bunch of people. You used to do that when you were filming it. You do the bingo stuff. How many times have you met somebody and you're just trying to have a conversation and they can't talk?
98% of the time.
How is it we can't even talk to each other? You know what I'm saying? I come from a family that the only way my uncles made money was because they could talk. Like, that was literally their skill.
Same with my father. Was
talking.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? That's how it used to be. That traveling salesman, what was his skill? Talking. The big time business person that you think of from back then, you would always think of someone who could talk. He's on the phone. Shelly, put so-and-so on the phone. He's talking. That is completely gone. So going back to that shooting, it is crazy that the good guy, the hero, was able to make those shots from 40 yards away. That's crazy. And going back to what I'm talking about, with the amount of guns we have and the fact that's never going to change, it seems like the one thing we haven't tried is what if people were allowed to openly carry? You know, across our country, the politicians, the government, let's just say the government, because a lot of law enforcement agencies don't want this either. But let's just say across our country, the government does not want citizens to openly carry. I believe that the reason we have, one of the reasons, okay, not there's never just one reason, but I believe one of the reasons that we have all these mass shootings in the places that we have them at is because the loser shooter thinks that these are places without defense. Schools, churches, malls. What if the script was people are openly carrying guns? And if you show up trying to harm somebody, you're going to get shot too. You know, I remember the first time as a kid I ever traveled outside the United States. This is like early 90s, right? My parents and we went down to Mexico for a vacation. It was super cheap. That's the reason we went. But I remember flying into those Mexican airports and seeing like real deal security guards with real deal assault rifles. It was like shocking, right? Because back then in American airports, you never saw someone walking around with a giant gun. Like that was unheard of. You know, our version of traveling was all about, you know, the tourist atmosphere and feeling like you're on luxury. And it was all about, you know, trying to provide you this experience. Once you land in Mexico, it ain't like that. You know, it's about, we got these guns, you better not mess up or we're going to blast you. I mean, and I was a kid, and that was immediately how I felt. So there's a reason that in other countries they act like this, but in our country we don't want to. Like, I remember going into a big city as a kid and going into a bank. And when you walk into the bank, there's a dude at the door with a big revolver on his hip. And I used to get, when we had these school shootings, you know, when they really started increasing, I used to get really upset, and my mindset was wrong. I thought to myself, well, the government, you know, should do something about this. The government should pay for there to be armed guards at schools. At this point in my life, I don't want the government to do anything. When the government gets involved in just about anything, they usually screw it up. It's normally a bad deal. So I know teachers across the country, they don't want to have guns. I think it's perfectly fine for having some civilian, a parent, whoever. I mean, we have PTA, right? Why can't there be a person up there with a gun? Not a little gun, a big gun. I have a very high belief that if all our local elementary schools have a guy with a gun who knows how to use them, there ain't going to be any shootings up there, any mass shooting styles. That's the reason these idiots go and do it. They're losers. They're trying to find someone to pick on, to abuse, and they go to places that there's no defense. Defenseless. You know, if all those people at that mall, if they were allowed to openly carry guns, I don't think that would have happened. So I never thought I would ever say this. You know, I grew up in a household where my dad doesn't own a single gun. Not one. I mean, he's not a gun guy. He's never wanted to be around guns. My grandfather, he had tons of guns. And my grandfather was the one hunting and yada yada. My dad, he didn't want anything to do with it. That was not him. He loves to fish, and he doesn't want anything to do with guns. So I grew up in this house where, when I was young, you know, guns were almost like a bad word. Like, don't talk about guns. We don't have any guns. Now that I'm the age I'm at, man, and I have kids of my own, and I have concern about my family's security and my family's safety, and I know that all the guns we have in the country, it's never going to change. I want people in our country to be able to openly carry. Like, I'm putting my flag in the sand. I'm open carry.
I think a Japanese general or somebody said that behind every blade of grass there's a gun in America. That's why they don't want to invade us.
Yeah.
You ever heard that?
I mean, there's like jokes. One of the best jokes I've heard, and I was watching this, I think even on TikTok, it was this great joke about like why the South will never be invaded by a foreign country. And this is look, we can all imagine this person existing. We probably even know someone's like this. There's some dudes who have an arsenal. Like I said, like there's 5 guns to every one person. There's dudes that have 20. You know, they have an arsenal. And if some foreign country showed up on the shores of, let's just say, Georgia or South Carolina, there's some dudes living in that state who are like, oh, I was ready. I was ready. Let me go down to the bunker. I mean, they would be flying in their GMC truck, their Ford F-150 as fast as they can to that shore. The war would be over in 30 seconds. It would be shot. So the joke is there'd be shotgun shells and Budweiser cans all over the beach. That's the joke.
I can't back this up, but from what I know, Switzerland, most people have to serve, and when they're after they're done serving, they get their AKs. They have the opportunity. No?
Okay, so what happens is when you're serving, they give you the gun, and you're allowed to take it home with you. So if you're on the trains, and it's not just Switzerland, there's a lot of other countries that are like this. You may be on the train, you'll see a dude that has like a real deal European assault rifle, and he's just on his way home from training. Wow. But the Swiss, for all that American, so this is the big thing. Like here in America, we always do the grass is greener. Oh, we want to be like the Scandinavian countries. Let's talk about the Scandinavian countries. One, there's very limited diversity. Everybody there is Scandinavian, and we can all imagine what they look like. So they don't have anywhere close to the diversity that we have in our country. Our country was literally founded on diversity. The Statue of Liberty, the saying, "Bring me your poor, your downtrodden." That's a big thing of our country. Well, the problem is these European countries that have now kind of switched this more liberal political stance, and they had these really open immigration policies, they're a wreck right now. I mean, there's been people coming into the country that they didn't really want to come into the country, but they just let them all in. Switzerland, it's higher. So immigration in European countries, it's normally people from southern points going north. Okay. People from Africa, people from the Middle East, basically the south moving north. Switzerland's pretty far up there. Okay, so they have a lot of other countries. Bulgaria is kind of a connecting country between the Middle East and Europe. It's like the connecting bridge. They are wrecked with immigration problems. Literally wrecked. Because everyone flows through, right? The Swiss, even though we're talking about people who are in the military getting to take their gun home, they still got a lot of guns. Hunting's still a pretty big thing up there. They still got a lot of guns.
It's supposedly one of the safest places to live.
So in Germany, they have this whole political structure about owning guns. So if you want to own a gun, you got to join a gun club. You got to go and show your proficiency with the gun, go through all these tests. And then when you get the gun, it has to stay at the gun club. Okay? It doesn't stay at your house. And German guns, a lot of times they'll have all these little stickers on it. The stickers demonstrate that the gun's okay, it's been checked out, and it's at this particular gun club. All right? Well, look, if Germany had the problems that we have here, people wouldn't be leaving their gun at the gun club. They'd be like, no, give me my gun. I want to take it home. I paid for it. That's my gun. So that Second Amendment, the big one in our country, you can say what you want about it, but the idea of citizens having the power to keep their government in check was what our country was founded on. Right? Like I said, man, these people who now say controversial things. So when I was in my 20s, I would say, that guy's crazy. Now I'm like, man, that guy's not too crazy. So one of the things that they say is, okay, Second Amendment says we have the right to bear arms. We all understand the historical context. It was literally to make sure the government could not get tyrannical. It was to keep them in check. The problem is nowadays we don't have F-18s. We don't have tanks. We don't have Stinger missiles. The civilian population, we don't have the military stuff. So there's people who say, why not? We should. I mean, if the whole idea is we need to keep you guys in check, then I'm kind of down for us having it too. The flip side is, well, could you imagine someone who's crazy getting something like that? My answer is, yeah, we got to take care of the crazy people. I mean, what will a crazy person do with a knife? If one human life is as important as 100, right? I mean, we use this great analogy in trial. What we say is, listen, let's imagine there's a $1 million mansion on Pensacola Beach and it's burning, right? And the fire department is rushing to get over there. And as they're rushing to get over there, they get a call that some shack in Gulf Breeze caught on fire too, but there's a person inside. Don't you expect them to hit a U-turn?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean, even though that may be a $10 million, $5 million mansion, you would 100% expect that fire department to do a U-turn and go put out that $50,000 shack with the person inside. And if they did it and that person died, wouldn't you point the finger at the fire department? Say, what? $10 million house with nobody inside? So that just shows you the value of life. I mean, that's what we're talking about in our country. One life should be as important as any other life. A crazy guy with a knife, it's the same thing, man. Do I think... So in the UK, we have this idea that they're safer than we are. They just have less guns. They still have violent crimes. They're just not involving guns. They're involving people stabbing each other. Look, you can Google London stabbings, and you'll see a stabbing from like 2 days ago, and then one from a week ago, and then one from a month ago. There's stabbings constantly going on there. They don't have guns, right? So the victims may actually live, which is a good thing, but let's not, kid around. If they had guns, it'd be the same thing as here. And the problem is here, we're never going to reduce our number of guns to any other country. That's never going to happen. So we need to have real solutions right now. And if we say government, you guys have done a piss poor job with this, which I think they have. I mean, when the first school shooting went down, we should have immediately said, we got to do something. They didn't do it because they didn't want to have kids and the parents freaked out about someone having guns up there, right? I would rather have parents freaked out about guns than having what we had in Texas.
Agreed.
And if we all agree that that lone wolf, crazy loser shooter is hard to identify, then we need to be able to kill him. And I have no problem saying the hero at that mall who killed him did a great job, and I would love for more heroes to kill more mass shooters. Like I said, man, I'm with it now. There's all this, I feel so old because there's all this like internet lingo nowadays, like, oh, the red pill. Have you taken the red pill? This is like a big during the QAnon thing. I'm taking that red pill when it comes to problems in our country. I've taken the red pill. We need to kill these mass shooters. And if that means more people need to openly carry, I'm 100% for it.
Yeah, that dude is a hero without a doubt. They said it was within 15 seconds.
Yeah, quick.
At first they said 2 minutes. They recanted to 15 seconds. And then the distance, like you said, 8 out of those 10 bullets from that distance is unheard of. So there was some kind of hyper-focus. Some people tried to villainize this guy.
It's insane.
He's a hero.
He's a hero. And in one of the craziest videos, and you can find this online. So there was a guy who went to a church. I think this was in Texas too. And he was trying to ingratiate himself to the church. He got to know some of the members. He was showing up a couple of days. And he was a loser guy. Well, one day he shows up with a shotgun. And he rolls into the church. And he just starts blasting people. And he did... I think he killed one person. You can watch the video. I mean, it's a sick video to watch. But what happens is he's on one side of the church, like against the exterior wall. And he walks in with a shotgun, boom, boom. There's a guy. This church had like their own, you can call it security force. It was their members who would carry guns to church to protect essentially the flock. And you can, in the video, you can see this guy who's one of these security guys pull out his gun. And we're talking maybe 25 yards, 30 yards, shoot this dude 2 or 3 times. One of them is the head, dropped him. And this happens so fast, it's ridiculous.
And I haven't even heard about it.
Oh man, the video's insane. The guy comes in the church, boom, boom, dude pulls the gun out, pop, pop, guy's gone. I mean, it's incredible. It's like, I don't want to make it like where we're talking about gory stuff and make it cool, but man, it was almost like a movie. It was better than the movie. It was like some John Wick stuff. I mean, the guy who did it, I don't know his name. You can Google it and see it. That guy's a hero. They should. Back in the day, I remember as a kid, they would have like the mayor giving the key to the city.
Yeah.
They need to give that dude at the mall the key to the city.
He better.
Yeah.
I was just going to bring up an example of one that I saw. It was like a corner store, that one of those complexes that has a security guard. Some people jumped the counter of the corner store, and they didn't have real guns, but they had guns. Security guard walks in, caps them both, and they're like, they're fake guns. He goes, well, this one's real.
Yeah. I mean, during the LA riots, so this is before Columbine. I mean, to me, I think Columbine was like the first mass shooting where we're all like, holy smokes, this is a problem. But the LA riots, which were before Columbine, one of the things that there's documentaries on, this is discussed, is there were Korean stores owned by Korean either first generation or second generation dudes who they don't play. You know, one thing that's interesting about at least that generation of Koreans, these people are tough. You know, Koreans have their own martial arts style. Taekwondo. Taekwondo is a Korean martial art. These dudes are tough. Tough dudes. You don't... I can't... It's crazy, man. But there's like one day I was just thinking to myself, like, what are the countries we don't want to go to war with? Korea's on my list. So anyway, LA riots, all this mass looting, mass burning. The Koreans got on top of their stores with guns, and they were absolutely shooting people. Because they don't play.
So Sublime song. Ash will have you mic'd up soon, but do you know the date from that Sublime song?
What's this? What's the song?
Is it April 22nd, 1992?
Oh,
There were riots on the streets. Tell me, where were you?
That had to be the LA riots.
I'm not sure if that's the actual date. That was just a gun in.
1992 sounds about right. But there's, I mean, you can. I think there's even Netflix documentaries about this, and they try to villainize these Korean people. And look, they did. I remember watching this documentary where they were doing some interviews of like the older Korean guys. Like maybe these dudes are first generation, and these guys just stone faced were like, "Yes, we had our rifle. Yes, we shot into the crowd." I mean, it was like there was no thought in their mind that I was ever wrong.
No,
they're like, "Yeah, of course we shot."
Protecting their domain.
Yeah. Protecting their store, protecting their livelihood. That store was their livelihood. So let me pivot, if you will allow.
Yeah.
Let me do some advertising. There was I believe the guy is running for county commissioner. Okay. He's a young guy. His name is Stanley McDaniel. He was arrested by Pensacola police because he was standing down on Main Street with a gun, openly carrying a gun. And he may have done this as like a political stunt, whatever. So my wife tells me about it. She sees it in the news. She's like, "Oh, you got this is crazy. This guy has this gun." So I look at it. I watch the video that was on the news website, and it's, you know, like I said, looked a little bit like a political stunt. But I got to thinking, like, okay, let me do a little bit of a dive legally. Like, well, where's the issue here? So we have a statute in Florida. Essentially, this is what the statute says. It says you cannot openly carry a gun, but you can carry a gun concealed only if you have a concealed permit. All right?
Okay.
So what this statute does in reality is it creates only two ways that you as a person, a free citizen, can carry a firearm. You can carry it openly, which is illegal. Okay, so you cannot do that. Or you can carry it with a concealed permit only. So you got to imagine, in the legal context, there's only two ways you can have the gun. You can have it openly on your person or concealed on your person. Okay, open's illegal. So that means you can't legally do that. The only other way is concealed, but only if you have a permit. So our U.S. Constitution says we have an absolute right to bear arms. Okay? It doesn't say we have a right to bear arms only if you have a concealed permit. It doesn't say we have a right to bear arms only if you concealed on your person and you have a permit. So when I started doing the research, when they came up with the statute, what happened is the court said, you know what, that's okay because it doesn't stop citizens from carrying guns. Well, the answer is it absolutely does, because if I can't carry it openly, and then you're going to force me to get a permit if I want to carry it concealed, then it does stop me from carrying guns. So here's the advertisement. If anybody is listening to this and knows this Stanley McDaniel guy, please tell him to call me. We will represent him pro bono, and I already have in my mind what we need to do.
All right. Well, by chance, he's a Facebook friend of mine.
Okay.
So I'll message him.
Send him a message. I'm being serious.
I will. I absolutely will.
I mean, I would love for this to make its way all the way up. All the way up. Because I think it's ridiculous. I mean, once I started looking at it and saying, wait. The court says this is okay because I can still carry, but I can't still carry? I'm not down with that. I'm okay. Look, I think it's perfectly fine if there's laws that say, okay, you can't carry inside a court, a post office. I'm even okay saying you can't carry inside places that have alcohol as its main business. But everywhere else, why can't I have a gun? I mean, nowadays, with what has happened in the last year, is Walmart safe? Is anywhere safe? What would stop some loser in Pensacola to go to Walmart, to go to anywhere?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Especially if they're going to try to constrict us within the amendment of right to bear arms.
Yeah, I mean, so think about it this way. If some crazy loser, and I hate to say it, but I think people know what I'm talking about when I say we got our fair share of crazy people in Pensacola. If some crazy loser in Pensacola gets a gun, it could be some rusty old gun, I don't care. A gun's a gun, brother. Gets a gun and goes to Walmart and starts blasting people, you, the free, law-abiding citizen, has to pray that somebody else with a concealed carry permit is around you.
Yes, and you know
that's what it comes down to. That's the reality. That's what we're talking about.
Stan McDaniels, me. Would you like to be on our law podcast? We'd love to have you. I'd love to.
Perfect.
Let's book it.
Perfect.
We'll book
He'll
it.
be our first guest.
There he is.
There he is.
He already responded.
This guy's going to go into infamy. I mean, this guy's going to get 1 million followers because that's how we'd roll with this podcast, for which we don't have a name yet.
You had a great idea.
Hit me with it.
Florida man lawyer.
I'm down with it.
Florida man lawyer.
Florida lawyer for the Florida man.
I also have an idea that if we ever do run a podcast, maybe if you're not present, it always has the banner and it's always out of the Crawford Law-Cast studios.
Absolutely.
Because you're in trial a lot.
I'm in court a lot. Yeah.
So I mean, like,
yeah.
I would like to use the space when you're not around.
Use it.
Because I don't want it to sit dormant.
Yeah, use it. Get Andrew Tate down here.
I'd love to.
Fly him in.
So we're talking about funny laws.
Yeah.
I'm all about funny laws.
Let's hear it.
I'm going to preface these. I've got a question after I give you, or I'll ask you the question first.
Okay.
Do you think that we create laws to prevent public liability? So, like, all right, so like in Alabama, it's illegal to wear high heels in public, probably because somebody caught their heel in a sewer grate. We have some Florida laws here that
hit me with them.
You need a license to skateboard in Florida.
Insane. Yet again, government screwing things up.
A woman electrocuted using beauty tools can be fined after she dies.
That is exactly what that sounds like.
And it's illegal to fall asleep with a hairdryer on. I've almost done that.
Yeah, so look.
Hey, look, hey. My feet get cold, man.
This is like a very basic functional law that everyone needs to understand. Our system is called common law. Okay, there's another system that's called civil law. And there's a lot of European countries that use the civil law system. Common law, the way it's supposed to be built, is judges and the legislator are able to build laws somewhat on top of each other. Okay, like the law builds on older precedent. Okay, this case says XYZ, so we got to follow XYZ. And we may take another look slightly, but we ain't just throwing it out. We're not getting rid of it. Okay, so it's kind of like a train. Like every little car on that train is connected. Right? You can see the law almost branching out like a tree. It should all be connected. That's how it should work. All right? It all should run together. When we have stuff like that, the problem is every year the legislator goes to Tallahassee to create law. Okay? What if one year they just said, you know what, guys? We haven't been doing this really well. All right? We basically screwed up for the last 5 years. We made some really bad law. This year, we're not going to do that. From my standpoint, I would start clapping. Because what happens is now we're at a point that we have so many laws on the books, no one knows all of them. Like what you're talking about, all these crazy laws. Every year, the legislator's just going up there. Sometimes these dudes, they don't know what they're going to try to pitch. See what I'm saying?
It's almost justifying your job for like
Yes.
almost like an SNL at a round table. Like,
exactly.
yo, dude, no more Heelys.
Yeah.
No more Heelys on the streets.
That's exactly what it's like. So imagine if I'm the local legislator, right? And I got like 2 or 3 things that I really care about, but I need some other stuff. You don't go on Fiverr, and talk to some dude from Pakistan like, hey, I'm a representative. I need some ideas. So that's where they just, there's pitching stuff around. What if?
Remember that? I think we might have already addressed this, but somebody got so mad about skateboarding in Pensacola that they could knock somebody off a sidewalk. And
Right.
whatnot.
Right. I mean, I was a skater punk. I wasn't good at all. I definitely did the rollerblading years too.
Oh yeah.
Hey, of course, man. We all did. Those were some great years, right?
I never saw anybody, even the ones that I would consider rebellious, push somebody off a sidewalk.
No. So what there was a fear of someone getting hurt, and there was a fear of, if they fall on our steps, they're going to sue us. Okay?
So public liability does play.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's exactly what it comes down to. So, when people would say that, you know how many times I've ever seen someone sue somebody because a skateboarder fell? 0.
But
See, I've represented skateboarders, right? And they would come and see me, and they're all scabbed up.
Yeah.
Did you sue anybody? No, I fell. And these dudes, one of them was a professional guy. This guy's a sweet dude. He's a great guy. I've seen his skating videos. They're phenomenal. But he ain't suing anybody. This is literally what they do for fun. They're in a game where they fall on the concrete and they think it's fun. And who is to say that they're wrong,
So like it's just a protection on the government side to say it's illegal. So if you do fall, you can't sue?
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming some tight-ass business person showed up and said, I'm pissed off about all these skateboarders. They could fall on my steps and sue us. And that tight-ass business person may have gave him some money and, okay, well, we'll make a skateboard law. Man, my job puts me in this position where I have to fight the government. And it's not a good position, I can tell you right now. You much rather be in the Matrix than taking the red pill. Look, when you're in the Matrix, you're eating the steak dinners and all that. You eat the red pill, you're eating like cockroaches, Everything's gray. They didn't even have nice clothes, But that's kind of like that's my job, man. I got to fight the government. And I can tell you that vast majority of time, when they start messing with these laws, it just makes things worse. Always makes things worse. Always. About this one.
RVW.
Roe v. Wade. Okay. So, one of the big problems with anybody who wants to talk about what the Supreme Court does, you have to read the opinions. And that is hard. It is insanely time consuming because these are not easy things to read. They're written by people who we have as a country believed to be the smartest of us. That's really like the Supreme Court is like a high council in any other culture, okay? So the people who are on the Supreme Court, there's just a general belief that they're smarter than all of us. That's why they're there.
Just the name of it, Supreme.
Absolutely. So a normal Supreme Court opinion, it's above 20 pages. It's above 30 pages. They're long, okay? And there's a whole history of constitutional analysis done by this court from all the different generations, all right? So when you read Roe v. Wade, one of the things that, if you know what you're doing and you know the law, that you will see is they basically just made it up. What I mean is there wasn't any other case before this that established or came even close to establishing what Roe v. Wade did. And this context of Roe v. Wade is very similar to the context of racial issues in our country. Because there is a period of time in the 70s, 80s, early 90s that the Supreme Court is dealing with civil rights issues. Okay, and a lot of the landmark decisions were civil rights issues, and this tails into the 60s, right? I'm not saying like 70 to 79. I'm saying just this time period. So, at one period of time, in the race has always been a problem for our country. I will be the first to admit it. It's always been an issue. Okay, there's our history, our founding, race was always intertwined. You know, the point where we're bringing in new states and we're trying to decide if they're going to be a slave state or not a slave state, that's what really led to the Civil War. So, at one point in time, it was the law of the land. When the Supreme Court speaks, that is the law of the land. It cannot be overturned by Florida, Texas, Oregon. That's the supreme law. So there's one time the Supreme Court said, listen, government can differentiate essentially services to different racial groups as long as the services were separate, but here's the key, but equal.
Well, how's it equal and separate?
That's what the mandate was. You ever see the old pictures of like drinking fountains that would say whites only or stuff like that?
Yes.
Okay, crazy, right? Like you would, if you ever saw that nowadays, you may get so scared and run away. You know, like that's mind blowing to think that could exist nowadays. But at one point in time, the law would basically say government could do that. They could have separate, like I said, essentially services. Like you could have separate water fountains, but they had to be equal water fountains. So you could have one that would say whites only and another one that would say essentially any other race, right? I mean, it's ridiculous to say blacks only because that's not an all-inclusive thing, right? I mean, are we talking about Hispanic individuals? How about light brown, medium brown, half brown, you know? So the government used to say that you could have separate but equal. That was based on cases from before them. There's a very important case called Plessy versus Ferguson. So then here comes Brown versus Board of Education. Here comes the big time case. And what somewhat happens in Brown versus Board of Education is the Supreme Court is not allowed to make law. They can only interpret law to be constitutional or not constitutional. The people who make law always is the legislator. That's how our system's supposed to work.
That's states.
No. So the Supreme Court is the federal high court.
Yes.
Okay. The Supreme Court is on the federal level. Okay. So cases, cases from state courts can make their way to the Supreme Court, or cases from federal court can make their way. So the Supreme Court can hear cases from any state, any federal system. But the reality is, the Supreme Court, being a federal system, their whole job, and this is like, we could have like an hour-long podcast for how this actually went down. It was kind of like a hoodwink job. The Supreme Court wasn't really set up to do this. So the Supreme Court, what we know of it today, what they do is they review laws, either by states or by the feds, to determine if it's constitutional. That's what we can consider a layman's term of their job. They're not allowed to make law. Okay. Only the legislator, the people that we elect as lawmakers, can make law. Okay. So knowing that's a prohibition, let's go back to separate but equal and Brown versus Board of Education. So what happens is Brown versus Board of Education comes to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is looking at the separate but equal standard, if you want to call it a standard, it was a law, to see if that's constitutional. Well, all the other cases before it said that was good to go, that was constitutional. What happened in Brown versus Board of Education is they used all this, the legal term would be extrinsic, but they used all this evidence that wasn't legal evidence. They were talking about, these psychiatry and there's these psychological testing where African American children were given white dolls and black dolls, and their preference was the white doll. And they were trying to figure out why, and there was just like this ingrained belief that the white doll was better than the brown doll. This is literally in the opinion from Brown versus Board of Education, where they're talking about these studies and this evidence being given to the Supreme Court. So what the Supreme Court did is they essentially struck down that standard and unified school districts, unified government services, which today is a great thing. But the reality was, at that time, they literally essentially created law. Like, their decision, how the law is supposed to work is I'm supposed to look back on what was done before me and base my decision on that. I can't come up with something off the wall. There are legal scholars who would say, and these are not racist people, I mean, these people are themselves minorities. They would say Brown versus Board of Education may not have been a wholly legal opinion. It was the right, these people would say it was the right decision, but it may not be a wholly legal opinion. For a legal opinion to be justified, it has to stand in the world of law. It has to stand on top of all these other cases. Roe v. Wade was the same thing. See, Roe v. Wade essentially did the same thing as Brown versus Board of Education. It created its own version of law where they did this. It was almost like, I can't use that term, that's a little tongue-in-cheek. It was almost like they wanted to appease both sides. So, Roe v. Wade, they created this framework of, weird time windows. Okay, you can, abortion would be legal for this time, but it's not legal after this time. Mm-hmm. Okay? But that decision's not based on any law. That's just what they came up with. So the second case, or the case that eventually overturned Roe v. Wade, when it was going into the Supreme Court, I knew already it was going to be done. One, the Supreme Court has changed a lot. It's a lot more conservative, and it's just a different court. Okay, the courts back in the day, there were some characters as these older judges, and they just did whatever they wanted to do. They're in there for life. You know what I'm saying? No one's showing up and voting them out. So these older courts, the Court of Justice Black and these older courts, they did what they thought was right. Let's just put it that way. Okay, and these older courts, like the protection that you have in criminal cases, it doesn't come from the new court. It comes from what happened back in the 80s and the 60s and the 70s. Miranda rights comes from those time periods. All these cases about being illegally searched come from those time period. Well, now it's the pendulum swung. So when it came in, I knew that they were going to overturn Roe v. Wade. And what they essentially did was they said, the lawyer in me is going to say that that was the right legal decision. People would never want to hear that, but the lawyer is going to say that that was actually the right constitutional decision, because the states historically have had the power to regulate police and health. Those are two areas that the state has been able to regulate. The feds have almost like locusts. Almost, I'm not going to say a virus, but they have embedded like a tick. They've embedded themselves so much into these two areas that they went well beyond what the Constitution would ever allow them to do in police and in health. So what the new decision basically says is it's up to the states. Well, if you live in a state like Florida, Alabama, your southern conservative states, we know what they're going to do. So that creates weird issues. I mean, are people going to be traveling? Yeah, probably.
People have found some pretty creative solutions to work their way around it. I think somebody's even making a ship, like an offshore ship.
Yeah,
that you can
international waters.
Yeah, get in international waters and get it done.
Yeah, so the lawyer in me wants to say, like the unemotional lawyer wants to say, yeah, that was a legal decision. Is it going to do us good? Probably not. I mean, you had that Freakonomics book, and one of the big things in that Freakonomics book was this whole discussion of why there was a downturn in crime. And people would say, oh, it's because we were giving all the money to the police, and we put so much of an emphasis on police. These guys who were like top rank accountants and statisticians, they said no. It was because of Roe v. Wade. It was because the people who couldn't have children and didn't want children, the children would have been almost, I'm not going to say a nuisance, but the children would have lived a life that would have put them in more of a criminal and crime realm. Those children were gone. So if those guys are right, what's going to happen again? I mean, are we going to repeat that whole cycle again? I don't know. But so from the legal standpoint, that was actually the right decision. What happens is there's all this political gamesmanship, and there are groups out there that try to create cases to get to the Supreme Court to change law. They do this all the time. They try to create these cases to get up there. For us to believe that these people in the Supreme Court are the smartest people in the world or the smartest people in our country, that's not a belief that's true. These people who are on the Supreme Court, they may be bright, but they were also politically connected.
Some probably have dementia. They've been there forever, right?
Yeah. Some probably do. Some people were maybe not the best people. Like if we think about these societies, whatever you want to call them, tribes, and we think about, okay, the tribe has a high council or the group of elders, right? Just being smart is not the only criteria that you're going to have if you're going to be one of the group of elders, right? You're going to be smart, but you're probably going to be a super good person that we can count on making the right decision, okay? You're not going to be biased towards anybody else in the tribe. You're going to make the best decision. We ain't got that. That's not what we got. We got super biased people sitting on our high council. That's the problem.
I saw Zuckerberg in court, and a guy was like, so Mr. Zuckerberg, can you explain the internet?
Yeah.
Can you explain what Facebook is? And just to hear the questions. I mean, even I got to give Zuckerberg credit for he stayed tact on his response, but he was like,
yeah, the best was like the Google executive and the senator was like, sir, why can't my phone do this? And the guy's like, that's an iPhone. I have no idea, sir. I work for Google. He's like, it's clearly an iPhone. I don't know.
So me and you, we're both new to TikTok.
Correct.
What are the pros and cons you've taken from TikTok?
So, like at this point, if you are a reasonable, logical person, you should believe that the people who run the social media game, the Mark Zuckerbergs of Facebook, what they're trying to do is capture your attention. and they're good at it, right? So TikTok is the best. TikTok is like crack.
Oh,
for capturing your attention.
That's my metaphor. Is I've never done cocaine because I'm scared that I'd be addicted to it, and I viewed TikTok the same way. And now that I've been on it, it's exactly what I thought.
Yeah. I mean, TikTok, those guys have it dialed in, and it's these short videos. If you don't like it, you just roll to the next one. So my feed is majority comedy. Little stand-up guys here, guys on the streets, majority comedy, sometimes sports, and then Andrew Tate. I don't know how Andrew Tate got into the mix of comedy and sports, but now he's like every third swipe. There's the dude.
Yeah, he is everywhere, and everybody's talking about him. Everybody wants him on their podcast. He is everywhere. It's funny how the algorithm feeds into your interests,
Right.
My feed is full of affirmations.
Okay.
You're going to make it. You're going to be all right.
That's crazy.
But
I like it, though.
Oh.
I don't, I would love to see somebody who can show me how to, they took the video, how they edited all that. I don't have the time for that. All right. People who have time on their hands, they can do it. But, man, I would love to see it because it's cool.
Me and my friend, we made a trend video. It was a rap song where you just lip sync the lyrics. It took 6 hours.
Oh, I can see that easily. Easily.
But
I'm sure there's people who can do it like that. Like they got it down.
Yeah.
But Facebook, I used to use Facebook a lot. I'm at the age where it's like all the same. Here are my kids. Here's some realtor who's trying to sell me some house. Here are me vacationing. It's all the same stuff. It gets so I can feel it's being pushed on me, and I don't want anything to do with it. But that TikTok, man, it's like, oh, if you don't want Facebook, I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm here.
If you don't like this video, just
keep it rolling.
You're eventually gonna find one.
Yeah. I mean, I was so hesitant because I thought to myself, man, this would reel me in. It got me.
It's got me too. It's got me too, and it makes me wonder about the psychological tactics that might be having. Is it nefarious? It feels nefarious, and I feel like I'm falling into it. Although I have a little bit of self-awareness to understand what's going on.
But it's not trying to sell me anything. I don't see that. It's all these stuff, and like I said, the controversial people, they get somehow to the top. So I see all these weird controversy stuff, and I don't feel Facebook, they're trying to sell me something. Instagram, oh my God. Every third Instagram's like, check out these new shoes. Check out, here I am at the beach with my new water bottle.
Yeah, God
it's like,
forbid you click on one thing.
Yeah.
It's every other feed now.
Yeah. I search on Google, water bottle, Instagram. How about this water bottle? How about that? And it's like, I'm smart enough to know that the 21-year-old girl who's I'm just out living my best life with my water bottle, in my Mercedes Sprinter where I live in. I'm smart enough to know that water bottle's from China. You paid $1 for that water bottle. You're trying to sell it to me for $20?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, you got that teacup poodle on a cute little leash there.
Yeah.
What if we got in the leash game?
We need to. There will be some big announcements very soon on the Florida Lawyer for Florida Man podcast. New sponsor. 2 new sponsors. We got 2 new sponsors. Big update very soon.
Let's go.
Big update.